Bobby Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. Celtics back at 500.
Seems like we're back at 500, and then we fall back behind 500, and then we get back. The roller coaster never ends with these guys.
And this was a deserving game of climbing to it, but falling back in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics in this one blew a 15-point lead at halftime by the end of the third quarter. They're trailing here with Kemba Walker shooting a three to go ahead into the fourth quarter. He ends up fouling out of this one. We'll get to Kemba in the end, who played for the first time in 9 games and completely batters the Celtics here and made them work for this one into the fourth. The story, though, Josh Richardson, fourth quarter, 4-4 shooting, ends the game with 27 points. This was the peak of the player when the Celtics brought him in that they pictured he could be. The Miami Josh Richardson, where he's doing a little bit of creating on and off the ball, shooting 5 of 7 from 3, and closing this game, which I didn't see that. I saw fans loving him. I saw 4 steals, certainly, as he had in this one. 4 assists, 3 steals, actually. I didn't see closer Josh Richardson on the resume when he came to Boston.
Well, I think he had a great game against the Knicks. There's no question about that. But I'm not quite ready to put this in stencil. It's more like pencil with me. I mean, he closed this game and deserved to because of the way he played. And I think that's one of the benefits of playing in an Ime Udoka system is depending on how you play will depend on whether you're on the roster down the stretch. And we'd be mindful not to mention the fact that you didn't have, some of your guys that would normally be in competition to be on the floor at the very end there. But give him credit. I mean, he knocked down shots. That mid-range shot of his is just absolutely priceless. Did not think that he would be able to bring that shot to the game as consistently. And his defense, I mean, he basically checked off all the boxes that you absolutely had to have in a game that I didn't think the Celtics played great, but certainly his play was just significantly impactful and frankly was the difference in them winning this game.
He's kind of the malleable guy you need on this roster, too. He can play make on the ball if the opportunity's there, and it was with no Dennis Schroeder, Marcus Smart, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown. All the ball handlers struggled to get offense going in that second half. So the opportunity presented itself. I think a lot of things are spontaneous with the Celtics here. He was the guy who took the responsibility there, made a few plays getting on and off the ball, finding this corner here after dumping a Nesmith in the lane. And he, over the last 2 weeks here, back to that West Coast trip, I think, has made a pitch to be in closing lineups. He did it on Friday. He closed with Nesmith down the stretch there with Smart in foul trouble, and he did it here in this one. So we talked on postgame, is there a starting case for him? I feel like we've made a starting case for just about everybody on the roster with the way this team's looked. But there's certainly a closing case with Richardson, I think.
Well, the one thing about him is that, he's shown the ability to really help this team, particularly in late game situations. But his availability is something that seems
suspect.
It's a little suspect, and obviously with injuries, illnesses, health and safety protocol, you just never know when you're going to have to modify your roster or your lineup, I should say, on the fly. But certainly when he has been available, he has shown the ability to step on the floor, make a difference for this team at both ends of the floor. And I love the way that, the last couple of weeks, he's been able to string those impactful moments together where it's not like he's just making a good shot at minute 7 and then making a good play defensively at minute 2. They're coming back to back to back to back. He's playing both ends of the floor at a high level. And if you're a Celtics team trying to figure out what your identity is going to be, who can you count on? Who are the guys that when things get tough, you can lean on? He's making a case that he can be one of those people.
And he picked up where Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown couldn't get it done in this one, which was disappointing to me. I thought they had sensational passing games against the Warriors and the Bucks earlier last week. 31 passes between them in the first one, 26 in the second one. Jayson finding Jaylen 3 times for threes on Friday. They connected well in that game, and I didn't see that here today. I saw 2 guys settling, attacking one-on-one, and the Knicks defense lent opportunities to do that. I just think they got a little carried away, and the offense just capsized in the third. I don't know what happened to them, and that's been, I think, the center of this team's inconsistency is them not knowing where they're going for facilitating and ball handling.
Well, I thought one of the biggest issues that they had was first half they were making shots, but their shots weren't really coming in the flow of good ball movement. And the Knicks made it much easier for them to just frankly get going like that. And the Knicks didn't counter that because, their first, I think 9 shots, they only had 2 assists. So defensively, the Celtics really weren't being challenged. And offensively, the Celtics weren't challenging themselves to get the ball moving from side to side like we've seen in the last couple of games. And at some point, you knew they were going to hit a stretch where it was going to get a little bit closer. Fortunately for them, Jay Rich was on the scene. Peyton Pritchard was on the scene to come up with big plays to help them get another win that puts them right back at 500, which it seems we're always at or around 500.
That's going to be the key for them to escape that rut, is those guys starting to do that game in and game out, getting off the ball, passing, relying on their teammates. It was tough in this one. Aaron Nesmith was awful. Payne Pritchard came and went. So you were pretty deep in your rotation, maybe guys that these two don't trust as much, which Ime has harped upon, trusting the teammates this year. One guy you could trust, and Tom Thibodeau didn't do it for a while, but he did it thanks to all the health and safety protocols, was Kemba Walker. Fate brought him to the starting lineup here in the place where he played the last 2 years. It was a mixed reaction to him coming back. There were a lot of Knicks fans here, another audible road entourage. You could hear them when the Knicks went on their runs, and Kemba Walker drew applause from both and dropped 30 points, 29 in the first 3 quarters. Ends up fouling out of this game, but he was all over the Celtics offensively. I know you didn't love his defense, but this was a guy who was completely out of a rotation, able to put up damn near 30 points in 3 quarters and almost turned this game on its head when the Knicks were completely out of it. It was just awesome to see him out there. I don't know what his future is around the league, but you certainly saw him get revenge against 2 teams in this one, as I saw on Twitter there, the Celtics and his own team now, the Knicks, who basically shut him away these last few weeks.
Well, they did, but to really kind of compounding the issue was even with Kemba out of the lineup in part because of his defense, the Knicks were still losing lots of games. So they still struggled.
2-7 over those 9.
Yeah, so Kemba clearly was not the problem. And Kemba has shown, I think for a lot of folks, that he still has something left in the tank. I think that was the concern that most people had with Kemba. Offensively, he has been one of the better players, in the decade or so he's been in the league. Defense is always going to be an issue for him. It's always going to be an issue for him. And to see him still have that a little bit left in the tank offensively to do what he did against the Celtics was great to see. Regardless of whether you're a Knicks fan or Celtics fan, Kemba is really one of the genuinely good guys in the NBA. There are very few people who have issues with Kemba. I was just talking with Celtics assistant Aaron Miles about Kemba Walker, actually. He said he'd love to coach because he has this way of making everyone in the room, in the locker room, on the staff, just feel better about themselves. And when you have a guy like that who can go out and get you 25 points, it's great. But that Kemba Walker, unfortunately, I don't think is around anymore. But at least when it comes to coming back to Boston, which we've seen before, guys tend to step their game up, and Kemba's no exception.
I think somebody in this league is going to want Kemba, even if it's not the Knicks. I think the Knicks probably hurt themselves by slighting him a little bit with all the criticism they drew over the last couple weeks here. I know the easy guy to blame is Evan Fournier, right? Everybody loves to blame Evan Fournier, and he turned his ankle after hitting a shot to get the Knicks within 5. Was rolling around down there, and Kemba took a foul for his 6th.
Exactly, and then Evan gets back up as if not that.
I've never seen anything like that. A take foul to help an injured guy for your 6th. He probably didn't know it was his 6th.
But that's just such a Kemba Walker thing to do. I mean, Kemba.
You think he knew?
I think Kemba, if he didn't know in that moment, he figured it out really even before they said that you're done. But that's just Kemba. Even if Kemba knew in advance, I still think Kemba would have took the foul because that's just what Kemba does. That's who he is.
That was the game. Celtics couldn't lose this one. It would have been ugly on post-game and down here. Instead, they're just treading water for now. We'll see what they have against the 76ers back on this floor on Monday. Another mid-tier matchup in the East. They got to win. They got to start to turn some of these games against teams on their level in the victories here down the stretch. So try to create some separation because this slog is getting tough for all these teams in the middle right now, and it leaves you kind of uncertain where you are around trade deadline time. So Sherrod Blakely, Bobby Manning, The Garden Report, CLNS Media, we will be back here at TD Garden on Monday. And tune in for Boston Sports Journal feature tomorrow, Sunday morning. That's going to be out, as well as some stuff on clnsmedia.com. We'll talk to you soon.